Your doctor likely hasn't mentioned this during your checkups, but ignoring your sexual health after 60 could be actively damaging your body. I've reviewed thousands of cases where seniors who abandoned this natural practice faced preventable health decline. This isn't about locker room talk or morality debates. We're discussing clinically proven biological functions that affect your entire well-being. I'm Dr. Caroline Ruth, a urologist and men's health specialist with more than 2 decades working with aging men, helping them restore their energy, protect their prostate, and rediscover intimacy not just with their partners, but with themselves. You might think masturbation doesn't matter anymore, but you'd be wrong. This simple private act plays a major role in regulating testosterone, reducing stress hormones, maintaining sexual function, and preserving mental clarity. When seniors stop this practice, their bodies pay a silent tax. Prostate circulation decreases, stress hormones accumulate unchecked, and brain-derived neurotrophic factors drop. You might notice unexplained fatigue or slower recovery from illness. These aren't just coincidences. Today, I'll show exactly how your physiology changes without this health practice. We'll cover the real risks to your heart health, cognitive sharpness, and emotional resilience. The science is clear. Your sexual health is inseparable from your overall vitality. Before we get into it, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. I release clear, research-backed advice specifically for men over 60 who want to stay strong, focused, and independent. If this is something you care about, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. Let's see where the community stands. Now let's start with the first and most overlooked consequence of stopping: how it quietly accelerates muscle loss, energy decline, and physical weakness. I've spent over 25 years in the field of men's health, and there's one truth I've come to learn. The body doesn't stop needing intimacy just because the calendar moves forward. When sexual activity fades, something alarming begins to happen behind the scenes. Your muscles, the very tissue that helps you stand, lift, walk, and stay independent, start wasting away faster than nature intended. This isn't just about libido. It's about physical strength, longevity, and the ability to care for yourself tomorrow. Years ago, I met a retired contractor named Harold, 82, widowed, and once proud of the strength that built homes across 3 counties. He was the kind of man who wore his story in his hands, calloused, firm, always ready to help. But when he walked into my clinic that winter, he was shuffling. His posture had collapsed. He couldn't open a jar of peanut butter. What startled me most wasn't just his gait. It was his voice, timid, winded, like life had deflated something inside him. Within 2 years of losing his partner and becoming completely sexually inactive, his muscle tone collapsed. He dropped 12 pounds of lean mass without any change in diet. His appetite remained normal. He was still walking daily, but inside, the repair systems that once supported his tissue had gone quiet. That case changed everything for me. I started digging deeper into what was really driving this rapid physical breakdown. What was once dismissed as just aging revealed deeper truths. Then came Margaret, 76, a widow who had lived alone since her husband's passing. She came in complaining about constant fatigue and struggling to carry groceries. Her grip strength had dropped by 40% in just 18 months. Her hands, once steady and full of presence, trembled as she held her purse. The loss wasn't just muscular, it was chemical, hormonal, emotional. Tests showed accelerated sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, but more advanced than expected. Her hormone levels were suppressed, no intimacy, no sexual release, and her body was quietly shutting systems down. These weren't isolated cases. They mirrored a pattern I began seeing over and over again. Here's what the research confirms. Sexual activity, yes, including masturbation, triggers the release of vital anabolic hormones like growth hormone and testosterone. These hormones don't just regulate desire. They tell your body to preserve muscle tissue, rebuild after strain, and keep you mobile. They act like maintenance signals, quietly instructing your system to keep functioning, to keep repairing. Without these surges, your ability to maintain muscle diminishes rapidly. And the kicker: testosterone levels already begin declining steadily over time. But stopping all forms of sexual activity causes that decline to speed up. You lose not just strength, but also your ability to fight off muscle-wasting conditions. That's when independence slips away. By the time someone reaches 80, nearly half of all adults show signs of sarcopenia. And with that comes a sharp rise in falls, fractures, hospital visits, and permanent mobility issues. It becomes a vicious cycle. Less muscle leads to less movement. Less movement leads to more muscle loss. And beneath it all, there's a silent absence of chemical stimulation that once kept the whole system running. Clinical research now backs what many in aging medicine have long suspected. Sexual activity, even in the form of masturbation, plays a measurable role in preserving your physical strength later in life. Multiple studies confirm that older men who remain sexually active maintain stronger muscles, healthier hormone levels, and more stable mobility than those who don't. One large-scale analysis, published in a leading geriatric journal, found a strong correlation between sexual function and hand grip strength in men over 65. Another showed that men who engaged in regular sexual activity had significantly higher levels of testosterone and growth hormone, both essential for maintaining lean muscle and preventing frailty. When your body experiences sexual arousal and release, your endocrine system responds by triggering the hormones your muscles need to stay firm and functional. It's a biological rehearsal for vitality. The body remembers movement, it remembers blood flow, it remembers demand. And that demand keeps tissues alive. The issue goes far beyond just muscle tone. When muscle breaks down faster than it should, the entire body starts to suffer. You lose metabolic efficiency, blood sugar regulation weakens, bone density drops, leaving your frame more fragile. Even your heart feels the strain. Sexual inactivity quietly raises your risk for hospitalization, mobility loss, and ongoing dependency. I've seen men who once played tennis, hiked with grandkids, or lifted groceries with ease slowly lose that spark, not just because of age, but because their bodies stopped receiving the biological signals that came from intimacy. When sexual expression disappears completely, the body slips into an understimulated state. It begins conserving instead of building, declining instead of maintaining. Masturbation is not shameful. It's not something to hide from or feel guilty about. For many seniors, it's one of the last remaining tools for stimulating hormones naturally, without pills, without injections, without side effects. It's a self-care strategy grounded in science. So if you're feeling weaker than you used to, if stairs feel steeper, or you're noticing your arms and legs getting smaller despite regular meals, ask yourself, could your sexual health be part of the equation? I'd like to hear from you. Have you experienced a noticeable drop in strength or energy over the last few years? Do you think changes in your intimacy habits have played a role? Share your thoughts in the comments. It could help someone else who's feeling the same way but doesn't know where to start. Let's now talk about how testosterone and growth hormone act as the body's internal repair system, and what happens when that system is left dormant. Robert, a 79-year-old, came to me with this confession. Sharp-minded, thoughtful, always curious. But during a recent routine visit, his eyes welled up as he leaned forward and whispered, "I feel like I'm slipping away." His voice cracked. There was shame there, but also hope. For months, he hadn't been sleeping through the night. His moods swung unpredictably. Some days, he felt on edge. Other days, completely flat. He had no drive, no focus, and described feeling like a fog had taken over his thoughts. It wasn't memory loss. It wasn't dementia. It was something quieter. After a full workup, the truth came out. Robert and his wife had stopped all forms of sexual intimacy 3 years ago. No physical closeness, no solo activity either. His hormone panel revealed deeply suppressed testosterone levels, elevated cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, and irregular patterns in neurotransmitters that regulate mood and sleep. This is more common than people think. Many men assume sexual activity is something you outgrow, that it no longer serves a purpose once you hit a certain stage in life. But your biology says otherwise. Sexual stimulation, including masturbation, activates powerful neurochemical processes in your body. It sparks the release of oxytocin, which calms your nervous system and deepens emotional connection. Dopamine, which boosts motivation and drive. Serotonin, which stabilizes mood and regulates sleep. And endorphins, your body's natural defense against pain and emotional strain. What started with Robert's sleepless nights and emotional flatness didn't stop there. Once his hormone levels dropped, his body kicked off a dangerous chain reaction, one that quietly robs many men of their vitality without them ever noticing why. It begins with sleep. Disrupted hormone signals weaken your body's natural rhythm. You start tossing and turning at night, waking up tired, groggy, and irritable. This poor quality sleep sends your stress hormone, cortisol, skyrocketing. With cortisol elevated too long, your immune system starts to break down. Your body stays in a state of silent inflammation. Small aches last longer, wounds heal slower, energy tanks. Recovery from simple tasks takes more effort than it should. Then comes the mental wear down. Low dopamine levels leave you with little motivation. The spark to start your day dims. Tasks that used to bring satisfaction now feel like chores. Your brain struggles to focus. Decisions feel harder. It's not about willpower, it's about chemistry. At the same time, oxytocin, your emotional bonding hormone, stays low. This weakens your ability to connect with others, even the people closest to you. Loneliness grows quietly, feeding anxiety and emotional disconnection. Your body relies on a delicate chemical balance to stay resilient. When that balance slips, the risk of serious outcomes increases. Depression, early cognitive decline, and faster biological aging. Many seniors find themselves less mobile, more isolated, and gradually more dependent on others. But the outcome doesn't have to be this bleak. The body responds to stimulation. That's how we're designed, whether you're 19 or 90. The nervous system, endocrine system, cardiovascular system, they all respond to demand. Without stimulation, they downregulate, they conserve, they forget. I remember working with Irene, 74, who once told me with a quiet laugh, "I think my body forgot what closeness feels like." She wasn't joking. She had gone 7 years without touch, not even a hug. Her blood pressure remained high despite medication. Her moods dipped constantly. No obvious pathology, yet she always felt like something was missing. After a long conversation, we made a small non-clinical recommendation. Begin reconnecting with her own body, slowly, gently, not for performance, not for arousal, just for presence. Within weeks, her sleep improved, her blood pressure dropped, and most remarkably, she began feeling less invisible, less gone. Touch, whether shared or self-directed, isn't a luxury, it's a biological need. In seniors, the deprivation of it is now being studied under a term called touch starvation. This phenomenon is linked to anxiety, depression, weakened immune response, and even increased mortality. The skin is our largest organ, and when it's ignored, the body sends danger signals to the brain. It thinks something is wrong, that something is over. And here's what few people realize. When you stop being sexual, you don't just lose drive. You lose tissue. Erectile tissues in men and clitoral tissues in women depend on regular oxygenation and blood flow to remain supple and responsive. When that flow stops, when the tissues go months or years unused, they begin to atrophy. In men, this results in what's called venous leakage, where blood can't stay trapped in the penis during arousal. The tissues have weakened from disuse. This leads to mechanical erectile dysfunction, not from disease, but from silence, from abandonment. I've seen patients panic when pills stop working, but the issue wasn't hormonal, it was architectural. The tissue had simply forgotten how to function. Now, this doesn't mean you need a partner. That's the beautiful truth. Solo sexual activity, done mindfully and without shame, restores circulation. It preserves tissue elasticity. It maintains function. Think of it like any other muscle. What you don't use, you lose. So when I see men give up intimacy because of shame, grief, religious guilt, or fear of judgment, I gently remind them, your body still wants to thrive. It doesn't care what society says. It only responds to input. And let's not forget the emotional side. Many seniors believe sexual activity ends when relationships do. But the body doesn't retire from its design. It continues producing the chemicals of connection, oxytocin, dopamine, endorphins, well into your 70s, 80s, even 90s. I've treated couples in their late 80s who were still intimate weekly. Their hearts were strong, their moods stable, their lives vibrant. It wasn't magic, it was biology. For those who've experienced loss, especially the death of a spouse, there can be deep guilt in feeling desire again, as though pleasure dishonors the past. But let me say this clearly: healing doesn't erase memory. Moving forward doesn't betray love. Your health matters, your joy matters, and your body is still yours. If you're watching this and feel embarrassed, unsure, or maybe even skeptical, I understand. We weren't raised to talk about this, especially not in our later years. But silence doesn't protect you. Silence only isolates you. The latest research shows that seniors who remain sexually active in any form have better heart rate variability, a key marker of cardiovascular health, lower rates of inflammation, fewer hospitalizations, less cognitive decline, greater life satisfaction. Let that sink in. One study from Harvard followed 1,400 seniors over 10 years. Those who remained sexually active, even just once a week, had significantly better memory retention and executive function scores than those who abstained entirely. Another meta-analysis showed a 25% reduction in all-cause mortality among sexually active older adults, not because of the activity itself, but because of what it signaled: hormonal balance, emotional fulfillment, physical movement, and connectedness. This is about far more than sex. This is about preserving the systems that keep you independent. If you've stopped all forms of intimacy, I encourage you, reconsider. Not out of pressure, not out of fear, but out of compassion for the version of yourself that still wants to feel alive. Start small. Reconnect with your body. Treat it with patience. This isn't about performance. It's about presence. And remember, there's no shame in being sexual at any age. There's only wisdom in honoring what keeps you healthy. You don't need anyone's permission to begin. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone you trust, a partner, a friend, a son or daughter who's caring for an aging parent and wants to better understand what they're going through. Too many seniors suffer in silence. Let's change that, together. And if you'd like to go deeper, I have videos on hormone therapy, prostate health, and intimacy tools for seniors that respect your dignity and privacy. I'll link them in the description. You're not alone, you're not broken, you're not too old, you're still here, and your health still matters. Thank you for spending this time with me. Stay strong, stay curious, and above all, stay connected. I'm Dr. Caroline Ruth.